Welcome to the YoggNation, the Spirit of Gratitude podcast on the One Integration platform. Hello, friends. My name is Yogesh Patel, and this podcast explores the themes of bullying, self-awareness, and the power of our inner spirit, including the silent battles we all face. Join me every week as I invite high-profile guests as we explore how adversity shapes us, how gratitude lifts us, and how we can all uncover the inner strength that we all have within ourselves. Join the conversation. I appreciate you listening in.
My next guest is a real-life Ted Lasso, which this podcast is modeled after. Malek Ben-Musa is an internationally recognized soccer player, having played in Europe, and is a nationally licensed professional soccer coach with over 35 years of experience, from youth to college to the professional ranks. He's won championships at the collegiate level and is now owner and co-founder of Austin Soul FC. Today, he shares his life experiences being a coach and being a truth seeker, which is going to be interesting to unravel. And with gratitude, welcome to the podcast, Malek.
Thank you, Yogi. I just wanted to say, first and foremost, I just want to thank God and you, and of course, the YoggNation. This sincere gratitude for the time and space to be able to tell my story.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor for you to be here. So first, Ted Lasso question. How many times in a given period do you need to hear the word believe before you start believing in yourself?
For me, it's probably once now. I think this is because of just the mindset I have after coaching for a long time. Believe to me actually means the process. So looking back, even when things are bleak, I think if you have a faith-based and a gratitude type of, like one thing about gratitude, first and foremost, is it's hard to be negative when you're grateful.
True.
Just that mindset. So if you're really, truly grateful for what you have, regardless of how things are going, it's very hard to be very negative.
How do you impart that in people that, again, I know it's a mindset and belief, but I'm sure environment plays a big role in terms of the people that give you that belief in themselves.
I mean, you just have to look. In Arabic, it would be "suf tahtik," look under you. Look, and that doesn't mean look under you like meaning socially or socioeconomically, meaning look at people who are suffering and countries that don't have any access to what you have, or don't have the educational opportunities, don't have the nice car I'm driving, whatever. You can go on and on and on a list. I always talk to ones who kind of feel bad for themselves. Take the privilege test. There's 19 questions. It's very simple. You take that test and you pretty much, regardless of who you are in the United States, you're probably going to realize that you're pretty privileged.
So what is this privilege test? I'm curious.
It's right online. You can just look up the privilege test and it'll come up with different variations of it. I've given it to different people, and it's helped them kind of realize where they're at and kind of get themselves out of that feeling, hey, woe is me, because that happens to everybody. I'm compassionate and, feel for people who are suffering, because a lot of times it's also self-inflicted a little bit too, and it's the woe is me kind, but the privilege test kind of helps you understand, hey, I don't live day to day thinking about where I'm going to get my next meal, or I have to go walk 5 miles to go get something to drink like water, or where I'm going to get myself cleaned off.
I guess.
Do I have a roof?
Yeah, I guess what you remind me of any problem that at least I have. It's kind of a first world problem,
and that's really a reminder. Excuse me. Regarding that, but so for me, believe, as you going back to the question, is just the result of your scope of like you don't know if you have a belief in a greater power above you, your creator, God, Allah for me, that it's never out of his reach, out of God's reach for what the plan is for you. And going back to Ted Lasso, so playing, coach, it felt like same as another that soccer, the lessons I've learned in soccer have helped me in life. So that whole premise from the actor Cristo Fernandez, Donnie, soccer is life.
Yes.
That is really kind of like I've never really termed it
Actually,
like
he
that, but
says
that's kind
football
of
is
what I
life.
live by. Football is life, soccer is life. Same
I
idea,
know.
but yeah,
Just having fun.
yeah, definitely. So yeah, in my travels and around the world, that last statement that Pep Guardiola said to Ted Lasso on that final episode really kind of emphasizes it's about people, and believing in people and giving them an opportunity, and it's being reaffirmed over and over and over again, regardless if I'm in Spain. Like last year, I was in Spain for a wedding at a professional coach who's a friend of mine, and the same summer I was in Brazil in Sao Paulo at another wedding for one of my good coaching friends. And there wasn't any difference. It was always about people. How can we help develop the person? And from that, you will get astonishing results on the field.
Well, given the nature of
That's the
competitive sports, especially in soccer/football, someone who's been on both who's been both a championship player and a championship coach at such a young age, Malik, how did you keep your ego in check and build that self-awareness needed to lead others? I could imagine it gets complicated.
as a young player, definitely had an ego. Probably was very honestly, I was not a very nice person at times. I was pretty angry. Probably this typical Middle Eastern young man, angry about just angry at the world, just because of the things that had happened up to that. Growing up outside of Houston, I was in a culture of where there wasn't a lot of people like me. In fact, I was the only person next to my twin brother out of 1,200 students that were brown. There may have been
Wow.
20 African Americans, 20 black students the whole
Uh-huh.
school. And at that time, we had just left, maybe five to less than a decade before that, left Libya as a kindergartner, first grader, because my dad had recently, a couple of years prior, been jailed for 40 days and put into a prison system with 8 to 10 of his friends who were all the greatest minds coming out of school at that time. Some of those guys who just retired were from the UN Security Council. One of them helped form the IBM chip.
Wow. So these were
Another
educated
helped
men.
at high levels that Gaddafi, dictator at the time, was trying to press into serving him. So they said no. Of course, they were jailed. Nobody knew who they were. And you got to understand, too, my grandfather was a diplomat. We have pictures of him with the Roosevelts and the Vatican and the King of Belgium. So he didn't even know where he was. So that kind of tells you how close knit that became right away and how well he took over. My grandmother was also the first woman to drive in Libya. My first woman to own her own business in Libya. So we had a family of forward-thinking, progressive about the education. I have an aunt who speaks 9 languages and has like 3 doctor's degrees. I kneel down to her because she's only like 4'11", 5'1", but she's just an amazing person. Like she's
That's a lot of sharp tools in the shed.
exactly. So my ego was really about just fear. That's the reason why, because I was in a place that didn't feel home. I still was trying to adapt. I was a chameleon. Basically, I had to change my skin according to what group I was in that time period. And as a first generation American, specifically a proud Texan, in fact, a very proud Libyan Texan, my ego was born from fear and that escaping a dictator. And once released, my dad served his time because basically he was trying to press him to serve for the government. So my dad did 2 years working in the oil fields. And then after things kind of died down, he said, "Yeah, I'm going on a business trip to Houston," and we never returned. So it was one of those stories.
But it's interesting. I mean, going back, you mentioned growing up as a chameleon, and I think that that's a relatable story today. Again, for those that are perhaps down on their luck or trying to not be their authentic self, right? And I think that's what a lot of this podcast aims to do is to provide this really authentic storytelling. And oh my gosh, you've certainly achieved that. But in terms of the wisdom and perspective you have towards a person that may not be exactly in your shoes, but has that fear of whatever is causing them not to be the best version of themselves. So curious, Malik, what would you say to that individual?
First and foremost, the resources we have now, and just in your hand as you pull up your phone, is amazing. In that respect, that you can connect with those who look and feel and are like you much easier. Example, and it took me a long time. Okay, I'm an example of somebody who went from one tribe to another, trying to figure out who I was. Recently, or like not recent, but like maybe 5, 6 years ago, I had an opportunity to join a civic organization called 100 Black Men of Austin. And there's ones all over almost every major city, and 100 Black Men of America as well. Um, and I found my tribe. I found people who were like me in a sense of trying to do the right thing for our community and help bring brown and black people, who have, through educational, not through excuses, not through, we're not a political organization, but we are policy oriented and trying to make sure that the right things are done for everybody, including our brown
Yeah,
and black community.
I think you're so right. The resources are out there. It just takes that initial push, that inertia to get started, whether that comes from yourself or a person who deeply cares about the struggles or challenges you're going through, to help, to give them guidance and say, hey, check this out, that might be helpful. And I think that
Yeah, I always feel like when you give back to your community, whichever form that is, uh, you'll be surprised what you're getting in return.
but kind of going back to, again, the serving, I think you are best at using soccer as a tool to serve others. And how do you measure success in that mission?
Well, after 35 years of coaching, I have now players and people coming back to me with their own kids that I've coached at ages 10, 11, and 12, asking me to coach their kids. So that gives me one aspect, saying I didn't screw them up. And that's something that you have to understand for me, I know it's easier to screw up somebody when you're trying to develop them as a person as much as you're trying to help them. So I keep that in mind. I have players who played at the highest levels that I've coached. In fact, one has an academy program right here in town that I coached when he was 14, and we were pretty hard on him when he was 14, not because of his potential and because of what he wanted. And that's the other thing too. What do they want? Uh, how how much do you give? I always tell my players now, and I've said this for almost 20 years now. I will give as much as you give me. So if you want a lot, if you want that big time, and you can't just talk about it because people talk all the time, but you have to show me, like Missouri, the show me state. You have to really show me that you want to that next level. Do you want to play high school, or do you want to play college, or do you want this or that? We're going to do whatever we can to give you the tools and skills and the mental toughness and resilience necessary to make it. But for the most part, there's so many talented people out there never make it, and it's not because they're not talented enough. It's because they don't have the heart or the willingness to suffer. My tagline for Austin
Tell
Soul
me more.
FC,
Willingness to suffer. That's huge.
okay, is called soccer. It's soccer, passion, and passion is a word that people think about, like, like great passion for something, but it also means suffering. You have to be able to suffer through the soccer part sometimes to get to where you want to be. And then the third tagline for us at Austin Soul FC is called cultural intelligence, and being understanding of where they're coming from and where they want to get to. Not everybody is going to be the same way. Just because you're a soccer player, if you're a white soccer player from a suburb, it's different, and that's just the truth. You might have, especially here where I live in Austin, where we have lots of resources and we have this very influential, affluent suburbs, like many cities. So if you're in that area, you might not need the same as somebody who comes from another area where, he has to work till 6 o'clock in the afternoon and then go train and then go back and help his dad because he's working the tile business, regardless of color. But
Well, kind of going back to the nature of soccer, I mean, it is, I mean, I know that you develop and mold these these young men and women. But soccer can be a very cutthroat environment, especially for kids chasing big dreams, what you just mentioned. But have you seen bullying or toxic competition creep into the sport? And how do you step in as a coach to protect the players' confidence and joy?
Um, Before I answer that, I just want to give two examples of the soccer as a tool survivors and how I measure it. One other person is Winston Poole, is another player of mine who I coached at 12 that nobody wanted, and now just won a state championship as a coach, and is coach of the year in Austin. Has won so many different awards. And then another player is I coached at the collegiate level named Diego Flores, who was the first graduate in his family. To me, that was super important. Not only was he the first, when I spoke to him recently after not seeing him for like 20 years, he told me the time on the field changed his life. It allowed him to be able to grow. And now he's at a very big firm, and making amazing, he's just a really high level executive. And he came from nowhere. So it's just opening doors and giving people opportunity, I think, is really the key. And if you guide them the right way, I think you'll be surprised what they can do. So, and then the cutthroat environment, that is my biggest concern.
Biggest what? I'm sorry?
My biggest concern as a coach. When I walk on the field, my number one priority is the safety of my players, period. There's nothing else more important to me. So that means everything from field conditions. When I walk the field, if I've never been there and I don't know the field, we'll walk right off. I don't care about winning or losing. If the storms are really prevalent in Central Texas, just like Florida, just like other parts in the South, if there's lightning in the area, back in the day before we had lightning meters and a phone, I would walk off the field if I saw even thunder or lightning in the distance. And people are like, why? It's not even close. I'm like, it doesn't matter. I'm getting off the field. If you can see it, you can get hit by it. And that's the truth. And that's the science. And it happened actually when my career, when we were first day of soccer for my daughter, Yara, as a 9-10-year-old, we're going up to the field and lightning hit a fence that rebounded and hit a child. And there was clear skies. It was a lightning storm or thunderstorm about 10 miles away. And that child has never been the same.
Oh my goodness.
So that's how important it is to be safe. So that's just one, but creating in regards to toxic environments, it's not tolerated for me. I don't care for, I was called Mr. Fix-It for a long time because if there was a problem with a team that they couldn't figure out why, they would give it to me as I was going through the coaching ranks and becoming a director and coaching at the level. And a lot of times I would just go in with an open mind, see what was going on. And a lot of times it was one or two players that were causing it. And if you got the players off, everything became so much better. And even though they were probably the best players, and that was usually the case, unfortunately, I didn't care because that was not the important. The important part was the team, and no one player or one person should be, including the coach, should be that important to the team that cannot be changed.
What about the opposing team, though? What if they have perhaps an arrogant coach or a snot-nosed kid who wants to malicious harm?
I would make it clear to the coach and give them a chance to help them understand what's going on the field, and not in the back in the day when I was young, probably not in a really correct way, but now I would do it privately probably and just let them know what's going on and see what happens. But in the end, if we had to play that team again, I would make it clear that we're not going to tolerate that, and we will walk off the field. Again, this is not about wins or losses. This is about player safety and also having an environment that everybody can grow and develop from. And you can't grow and develop from a toxic environment or environment that's negative. So
That's so true. I mean, that's just life in general, right? I mean, yes, it's you grow when you are sometimes at your lowest point, but that doesn't mean that you got there because of the bullying and people putting you down.
and that's kind of where I've become a little bit better with my ego. I work consistently as hard as I can to push the ego down. I hope now it's as small as possible, but obviously as a coach, when you're trying to compete and you're trying to actually win a game, which is part of what we're trying to do. I'm not coaching a recreational team now. I'm coaching an MLS Next U16 team. So all of these players on this team, all of them across the board, every one of them, who wants to be pro? Every one of them raises their hand. So if all of them want to, and there's no parents around, so there's nobody pushing them. They all want this. They're all doing everything they can to do the right thing.
Then it
And
must
they're doing a
be
phenomenal job.
hard for you because of the different dimensions and qualities that each individual player has and how to get the best out of them. It's like playing four-dimensional chess.
Pretty much, yeah. You have the team goals, you have the team periodization, but you also have individual goals and individual periodization. How is that going to also impact their game model, which is basically how we want to play, and how we can help them become the best versions of themselves? All of this.
But they're also competing against one another too, to a certain degree.
Yes, they are. They're competing against one another. They're competing against the other team. They're competing for coach's time and coach's wisdom at the same time. So all of that plays a part.
So how do you manage all that?
And that's what how you balance it according to, again, who's giving what, who's giving. The three things I tell my players that they need to do. This is what they can control. I've done this with a team recently, like 6 or 7 years ago, where I didn't talk about winning. I just talked about these three things. One, effort individually, meaning I want everything. I want physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. I want it all. I want 100%. Okay, every time you step on the field for me. Two, a growth mindset, not a false growth mindset, an actual true growth mindset. We want to see you be able to get the mistake, take it, accept it, and move forward and see if we can fix it. Okay? And not mean fix it because it's not going to happen again, but fix it because you understand what the problem was and you're trying to make it better. And then third, are you doing the right thing? Regardless of what happens on the field, are you doing the right thing? That means if I'm walking by and I see a piece of trash on the sideline, regardless if it's my field that we're playing on, our home field, or away field, or training, or whatever it is, are you doing the right thing and picking it up and throwing it away in the trash? As simple as that. Those three things you can control. Nothing else is controllable on the field. Not the environment, not the other team, not the referee, not the other players, not your teammates. All you have control over is yourself. So once you have that, then you can possibly be able to really go places, I think. So.
And as you were mentioning this, Malek, I was thinking about where humility might factor in, but it looks like it would be a subcategory of number 3, of doing the right thing.
Just do the right thing. Just stop and think about, how you can help when something looks wrong. Do the right thing. If somebody's not acting right, do the right thing and let them know. We're all accountable for ourselves, but also accountable for each other on the team. So we talk about this. And for that year with that team I experimented on, that was during the time I was getting my master's degree in soccer coaching. We won every game. And I never spoke about winning once.
Really? Huh, you were the Ted Lasso then.
I didn't even talk about tactics. I didn't even mention you need to do this or you need to do that. And once in a while I would put them in the right spot just to help them out and guide them. But most of the time, those are the three things I would remind them. And when they'd come off the field, I would say, so what's going on? They're like, our effort sucks, coach. We need to do this, this, and this. They took ownership. So that's really key to them taking ownership, them believing that they understand the game and they can do it. So that's the process of belief.
And again, for that person that's listening in the quiet corner of the room, as they say, right? I think what Malek just has described in terms of his coaching and playing career this is exactly the formula of how you can be uber competitive yet be humble at the same time, as opposed to being uber competitive and being arrogant. So Malek, thank you for sharing your spirit today and what that means to hopefully influence an individual listening, whether that's streaming or on social media, about the ability to be inspired, to become educated, to become entertained, but ultimately learn something about yourself or rediscover something about yourself. And so, Malek, I thank you again for sharing your story, sharing your insights, sharing your wisdom in terms of how to be this good person at the end of the day and what it means to be that truth seeker. A couple of fun questions I wanted to ask of you, Malek, in terms of your playing days in Europe, and that is, just kind of pie in the sky questions. So, who'd give the better pep talk to a bunch of 10-year-old kids besides yourself? David Beckham with his charm, or Diego Maradona with his fire?
Oh man.
I assume you know both.
Yeah, I know them both really well. Maradona might have. It depends on the group. I think if it's a Latino group, it would definitely be Maradona. If it's a group from Europe, it probably will be Beckham. So just depending on where they are and what they're wanting to hear and how they're trying to hear it. So
Gotcha.
that's pretty much it. I mean, both of them would have a lot to say. Maradona would be very interesting, but Beckham, of course, has a great story as well.
Cool. And then next question, who would you rather arm wrestle? Sir Alex Ferguson or Jose, is it Mourinho, if I pronounced his name correctly?
I don't know. I have utmost respect for both of them, but a little bit more for Sir Alex. He did some astonishing things in his career. I think up until Pep, he was probably considered maybe the greatest coach ever. And now we have Pep, who's broken all these kind of records and stuff, and continues to do so. But I would say probably Marino. I'd probably go against him just because.
Is that because you think you'd win?
Probably, and because he's also more my size.
Cool. And then final question, who would be your ideal foursome in golf if you had to pick all of the legendary soccer players that you know?
Oh my gosh. If they all could play golf really well.
Or if they're hacks.
Yeah, Pele would be the first.
Yeah.
For me, he's the greatest ever. Eusebio, which at the time was considered the second best player.
Wait, who is this person?
He's from Portugal. He was called the Black Panther. Probably one of the greatest in their era. Portuguese player, well known. Cruyff, definitely because of his knowledge, and basically everything we see today is a developmental piece of his knowledge that he brought to Barcelona and through the total game in the Netherlands, which used to be called Holland, but now they call it Netherlands. They like that term better. And then the final one,
Messi?
no, not nobody modern. Probably, it'd probably be Socrates from Brazil, who was not only the captain of the Brazilian soccer team in the '80s, but also a doctor.
Really? I didn't know that.
Amazing, amazing man. So, and then phenomenal player too. But I would be very curious to pick his brain as we golfed for 18 holes.
That's amazing. Well, I think that's a great way to end the segment, Malik, in terms of the philosophy, right, from the OG Socrates to this Socrates that you know, and then finally wrapping it up with your incredible story and journey. So, Malik, before we leave, is there anything that you want to share to the citizens of YoggNation regarding your philosophy or anything that I missed that you wanted to share?
I think the one thing is the describing myself as the truth seeker and understanding more about that. I would say to be curious. If you want to become a better person, curiosity is a big part of it. For my faith-based practice and many others, seeking knowledge and the seeking, and almost all of them strongly encourage it. Attaining, seeking knowledge, seeking the truth. And that's what that means to me. Seeking the truth and being the truth seeker is trying to figure out what's really true and what kind of knowledge I can attain. And if you ever think of me as that truth seeker riding in an ocean of sand, because I'm from Libya. The Sahara Desert encompasses all of it. For those who don't know, Libya is 3 times the size of Texas with only 7 million people. So it's very, very vast, and it's an ocean of sand. So think of me there. And, just remember that, that is really the key to being a better version. It's just seeking the truth and seeking and being curious and wanting to learn about others. That also helps you become and stay humble.
Well stated. Thank you, Malek, for your time.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Yogi.
Absolutely. God bless.
God bless to you.